So, you guys like video games. We all like video games. Video games are great.
Yeah, we
That's
play more of
what
them.
we talk about. You guys like RPGs.
Which RPGs?
Okay, so top RPG,
Yes.
top RPG series that I've played that I enjoy. I'm a Final Fantasy homer. In recent years, it's kind of sucked, but Final Fantasy's always kind of been my thing.
Doing them.
I just finished Dragon Quest XI S Definitive Edition on the Switch.
Nice.
Right before Charlotte was it was after she was born. It was fun. If you want just like basic RPG with not a whole lot of flair, not a whole lot, just basic RPG.
No.
Dragon Quest XI's it.
The opposite of Persona.
There's the Persona games that I thought about getting into them, but so I had just finished reading Attack on Titan, and 12 years into this thing, I'm sitting here like that was kind of a wet fart. I had all this world building, all this stuff, which it's memorable, it was cool, but there wasn't the payoff for me that I wanted.
Right.
So last year, remember, I read through the, technically it's a trilogy, but it's two separate games, the Muv-Luv games. It's the only harem I'll defend. The payoff.
What about SAO?
The payoff for that was incredible. Of course the girls are gonna die at the end, but it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And oh my gosh, it was an incredible payoff. And I wanted that again. I was like, I want something that's gonna have an amazing payoff, and I wanna play an RPG, because when I'm holding a baby, I can't play Devil May Cry.
Not with that attitude.
So I've tried, it's not possible. So I'm like, all right, I want an RPG or an RPG series that's gonna have like a giga payoff. But I want to be a hipster. I don't want something that's like super mainstream that like everyone's played. I want something
Isn't Muv-Luv a visual novel?
It is.
So you're talking RPG or visual novel?
I want an RPG this time. I
Okay.
want to play.
Not a visual
I want to
novel.
play. I want to play a game. So I'm looking. I'm searching.
You're Automata.
Is it
That's not an RPG.
Trails or
You're Automata's an RPG.
Oh, jeez, read my mind. So earlier this year, actually, I think it was just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Trails of Cold Steel 4
is that?
came out. Now,
part of the Trails series?
yeah, so the Trails series
I've never
is,
even heard of the
is
Trails series.
there's a reason for that, because you're not a cool hipster like I am. The Trails series is a part of a larger overarching series that Nihon Falcom has done called the Legend of Heroes. Legend of Heroes has been going on since the 80s, but it was only recently.
Is that related to Legend of the Galactic Heroes?
Nothing. Has nothing to do with that. It wasn't until recently that they decided to make kind of this overarching world that they're building and kind of an overarching story that they're trying to get this world to go to. They first started doing this in a series of games called The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. There's 3 games released for that in 04, 07, and 09 on the PSP. They didn't get localized until like 2011, 2014, and 2017. What took so long for them to get localized is literally the vast amount of text that's in the game. Every NPC has unique text that will always change as the story progresses. So when something happens, you go and talk to the NPCs, and they will talk about not just about themselves and stuff going on around them, but current events that just happened, not just localized in their town or region, about stuff that happened outside of it too.
So is it like an open world type thing, or okay?
It's an RPG.
So it's very much linear.
It is, but it's very alive. It's like, so when you play the Final Fantasy games, or when you play like Persona or something, and you talk to maybe NPCs or something, I've never played Persona, but you'll talk to NPCs, they'll have like the lines that they say, and they like never change.
They say their thing.
Or you'll come back after like a major thing happened, like, oh, this character died in the game, and their lines may change, but that's it. NPCs in the Trails game, their dialogue changes all the time.
Every Trails game?
I believe so. Yes,
Wow.
every Trails game. So I was like, you know what? Let me jump into this and see what this is all about. So I just beat the first game last week. I'm like 2 chapters into the second game. And the story so far isn't like fantastic. It isn't something that's but the world building is incredible. And from what I understand from Legend of Heroes fans or General Trails fans, they say, just keep playing. I realize these games are long. I realize you're investing a ton of time. There's big payoffs later. Because, so...
How long are these games? Like,
so the first...
they'll vary, but...
So, on the PC, there's a speed button now to get through it faster.
Nice.
Using the speed button and doing almost every side quest I could do, the first game took me 50 hours.
When the speed button goes...
I set it to 4x.
Wow. That's fast.
The second game, from what I understand, the second game, from what I understand, is almost twice as long. And people
So you need that 8x.
and people say that the second chapter may be the best of all the Trails games, and I'm just starting it now. They're all slow to get started with, but they're building characters, they're building the world. I care about these stupid characters for some reason now, and what happens with them, and why things happen, and even like side characters. I'm like, why do I care about you and things that happen?
It's basically
That's
the same
awesome.
cast. I mean, they
It's the same cast, the same
cast.
system. You're going to the same place. Like, I'm literally in the exact same town I was in the first game. Nothing has changed, but the
Oh.
dialogue has changed with everybody. The world is alive.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
No, they don't do like a Mass Effect thing where like choices in the first game lead into choices in the second game.
Not
or
necessarily.
anything?
No,
Okay.
it's still quite
gotcha.
linear with the storytelling, but there's things that still carry over, like side quests and stuff that you do, and there's characters that you interact with side quests in the first game. Or in the second game, you'd be like, "Hey, I remember saving you from this ship," and they're like, "Hey, I remember you too." And then if you did that quest before, there's like added dialogue with them bantering about what happened and then bantering about what's going on at the time now and then doing other side quests. So this goes on for 3 games in one kingdom on a big continent. So this is in the Liberal Kingdom is what it's called. The first 3 Trails game, Trails in the Sky. Alongside that, being released in America at the same time as getting localized, was Trails of Cold Steel, which is way more popular now because it's the high school kind of whatever thing. But that takes place literally, it's adjacent to this kingdom that I'm in now. And it's called the Ereborian Arc because it's the kingdom of Ereboria. But there's characters from in that kingdom that are in this kingdom that I interact with, and they talk about things that were significant that happened between the two, because there was a war and stuff that happened.
So when you play these games, are you supposed to play like all 3 of the Trails in the Sky, and then like you kind of like mix and match?
So if you play Trail in the Skies, you want to play them in order, but you can
come out in order.
But you can you can play Trail in the Skies and Trail of Cold Steel at the same time if you want to, but there's a world chronology. Like Trails in the Sky happens like 2 years before Trails of Cold Steel.
Oh, okay.
And there's things that are affected in the overall continent that you're on that happen because of Trails in the Sky that affect things that happen in Trails of Cold Steel. So if you're paying attention and they're like, oh, this lost technology by the proto whatever that happened 1,200 years ago, and we just found out because of the Orbital Revolution 50 years ago. Some of that information is assumed in Trails of Cold Steel. If you play Trails in the Sky, you know everything that happened with it.
So how many games are there all together in like
Too
the whole...
many. So right
many
now,
is too
all that we have in America is 7 games. We have 3 of the Trails in the Sky games, and there's 4 Trails of Cold Steel games.
Okay.
Trails in the Sky happens before Trails of Cold Steel, and it happens in the kingdom that's adjacent to northwest of where you're at in Trails of the Sky. There's 2 games that were unreleased in America that are technically going to be released on Steam in the summertime that have fan translations.
Okay.
They're the Zero No
Wait, they
Isekai
currently
games.
have fan translations, or
They
the the fan translation is the one that's coming out?
So
They're getting official translation.
Steam has made it unclear on what's going to happen, and the company Xseed is the company that's
Xseed, I've heard
that
of it.
has localized the games, and I haven't heard anything about them localizing these 2 games. But they're not prequels. They happen at the same time Trails of Cold Steel is happening, but they're happening in the kingdom north of Trails in the Sky, but directly adjacent to Trails of Cold Steel, and that's the Crossbell. There's another continent to the right there's another country to the right, Cavallard. It's the Republic of Cavallard, I think is what it's called, that interacts with all of these other countries too, that we think is going to get their own game series as well, but we're unsure. But all of these things are tied into one overarching narrative of where the continent is going to go. Even though localized within these kingdoms, they have their own story and conflict that's happening. So there's this gigantic continent where stuff is happening localized in these particular kingdoms that affect the other kingdoms, but they're still their own standalone stories. And there's things in those standalone stories that you're not going to pick up on unless you play those other games. So all the fans are like, listen, I understand you've dropped 300 hours into this first trilogy, and you really want to play Trails of Cold Steel because you want to pick a waifu and you want to be back in high school again. I get it. Burn the time and play the first 3 games because the payoff is gigantic from what I understand. From what I understand, the payoff is huge.
So you started with Trails of Cold Steel or just
Trails in the Sky.
Trails in the
So
Sky, yeah.
chronologically, that's what comes first from what I
So
understand.
wait, when did the Trails in the Sky games come out? Those
So-
were the 80s ones?
So the Trail
like the
series is a
mid-2000s.
part of the Legend of Heroes series. And the Legend of Heroes series had games that came out in the 80s that have nothing
Okay.
to do with this.
Okay. I see.
But
I-
they've-
I was getting caught
Yeah,
up.
but Falcom
yeah.
has now decided to say, hey, we're going to try to start linking some of these series together, and they started with Trails in the Sky to be the first one to do that.
The Trails series is basically like the Persona to the Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah, basically.
Whereas
Okay, that makes sense.
when they got to 5, they're like, okay, it's just Persona
br-
5. It's not Shin Megami Tensei anymore.
So the Legend of Heroes is the Shin Megami Tensei, and it's got a
And
ton
then,
of things.
and then Trails in the Sky, I guess, could be your Persona,
Persona.
and
Okay.
they're
I get that.
and they're all linked and related.
That is so cool.
So I
like
was
that.
so I picked it up, and I'm already getting payoff into the second game. Again, the stories aren't like fantastic and great, and
Yeah.
you have to come to love some of the characters.
So what kind of gameplay is it? Is it like turn-based?
It's RPG, turn-based RPG.
Turn-based fights and
It's
stuff.
have you ever played like the Tales games? Have you ever seen them? How their combat
Not
is?
really.
So
no.
it's like that, but turn-based, not action.
Yeah.
Okay. And when are they like set? Like what kind of time period is it? Is it like fantasy? Is it more like Final Fantasy VII or something?
No,
What's going on
so
here?
it's it's kind of like, it's not quite modern day. It's like, it's kind of so they just had an industrial revolution of sorts where they discovered magic, if you will.
It's like
Okay.
it's like Full Metal.
Yeah, it's basically
Yeah,
Full
it's
Metal
like-
Alchemist.
yeah, yeah.
And instead of alchemy, it's magic essentially.
Okay.
But
I mean that makes sense.
but
I know what
like,
Full Metal
but a
Alchemist is
large
kinda like
amount
that.
of
Yeah,
time
yeah.
before that was an ancient civilization that had this technology that they've been slowly unearthing that does things where they're like, well, this is breaking the technology we have now. We don't understand why. And I think that's where the overarching plot is going.
Okay.
Because there's
like a normal big bad kind of thing in all the games, or how does that work?
because what happened in the first game at the end, I was like, huh. And then in the second game, I'm like, so one of the cool things in the second game so far, there was a side quest in the first game, which you didn't have to do. You had to go out of your way to do it.
Yeah.
And you learned about a character that you're just like, oh, he's just calling himself this because he wants to be cool, whatever. In the second game, you find him and he's a big deal. And he's not just a side character. He's like, oh, this secret organization, I'm one of the big bads in it. And if you would have played the first game and done this side quest that you had to go out of your way, you would have been like, you're Phantom B. What? And then people in the world are like, that's who Phantom B was? Oh yeah, that was. And they all talk about it and stuff after you like do the side quest and you meet the character. And they're like, yeah, I remember you 6 months ago coming in here and getting that barrel for us and Phantom B being, and then the character that was Phantom B.
Dude, that's the plot of like the second Red Wall book.
So I'm literally like, so I'm already getting payoff and I'm just like, just keep taking me. What are we
so
gonna do next?
interesting.
What are we gonna do next? It's a lot of reading because if you want to just plow through it and not talk to NPCs and get involved in the world, you could just go from the next quest to the next quest. If you want to do that, you're not gonna. At that point, you're just playing an RPG. You're not really getting. You're not getting from the game what the developers intended. They really wanted to say, go talk to the NPCs because all the dialogue changes.
I've seen these.
They interact
I've seen
with
that
you.
before.
See, that's where I can never get into these because I never want to do side quests.
Yeah, and that's what makes.
I enjoy side quests. The problem is when there's so many side quests and stuff, I end up like getting burnt out and like never actually finishing the game.
So the thing with these games,
I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles for like
So-
almost 200 hours now, and I still haven't beat it.
I'm not-
That's across like 3 different plays.
I'm not gonna lie.
Stupid.
I have started it up too. I got the definitive edition on the Switch. I'm like.
So did I. Haven't opened it.
I'm like 5 chapters in, and I had to take a break.
It's slow.
So Trails is even slower, but Trails has better world building. If you want to like,
World building in Xenoblade pays off more toward the end.
That's what I understand.
But when they say end,
They mean
end.
So Trails, it's starting to pay off already because you're getting involved in a world that's living and breathing and interacts with stuff that's happening with the plot as well as the overall continent.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that in an RPG before. It's always like go from point A to point B, and you have NPCs that talk about the things localized that are going on, and it like connects to the plot, but it's just like the next thing you have to do to get the MacGuffin to go fight the bad guy. And this one, it's like you've got to go to the next reason for like reasons to check out things, but it's one of those like, hey, we heard there's a disturbance going on over here. Go over there and check it out. And that's the thing that's just a part of the story. But when you do that, an anime plot thing happens and a bad guy shows up and you're like, oh, okay, an anime plot thing happens. But then you start talking to the NPCs and you get wrapped up into everything that's going on, and it just
That'd be another thing.
It's
When
got
the-
its
with
hooks in me deep.
NPCs With the NPCs like changing their dialogue, I'd have to talk to everyone so many times to feel like I'm getting the most out of the game.
And it's so worth
I
it.
know, and it would slow things down so much. I just stopped playing. I just
So
talking to people all the time.
I thought the same thing too. I can't stop playing. I can't stop playing because I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing this and start to get sucked in, and then eventually it's gonna feel like boring, and I'm gonna feel like it's a drag. I have to know what happens. I have to keep talking to people, and it just, I've never had an RPG that just keeps its fangs in me and won't let go, and just keeps like building the world and keeping the character building amongst themselves going, and then making conflicts happen and having all the interactions change again. I'm just like,
That's why
this is what I was looking for.
Nier Automata, man. It's
Nier
short
Automata's
enough.
really good.
It's short enough. It's perfect.
See,
That's what I like.
So Trails has killed me.
Oh,
the thing about Nier though is Nier is open world, but it's such a like jammed packed.
that's true.
It's like it's not big, it's small, but there's like a lot of meat to it. Like,
Right.
and it's like very easy. Like once you go somewhere and then you come back to like the main area or whatever, you're just like, oh, that's connected to here.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's like this big circle that you.
Oh,
like,
here,
all leads to
here,
the hub.
that was a shortcut.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, now things have changed, and now there's a secret passage that leads under, and now we can go.
Is
Yeah.
Replicant open world too?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It
It's
is
just
similar? Okay.
I would say it's not as. It's more of like here's. I mean, yeah, it is still rememberable. It's just not as very diverse as Automata is, because Automata is just like here's a theme park, here's a forest, here's a
Oh, man,
water
when you
area,
first get
here's
to
a
the
desert.
amusement park
Yeah.
and it like zooms up on everything and that music kicks in.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite piece of music in the whole game.
Yeah,
That
oh,
soundtrack
yeah.
is amazing.
The theme park area, just in general,
So
it's just like
good.
it has the best music.
So
It's
good.
weird because it's like haunting,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
carnival.
Yeah,
And I had
the
no
boss.
idea how they mix those two
Yeah.
genres together.
because it keeps getting it progresses as you get through the level or whatever the area.
I found out they had the whole soundtrack on Spotify and I just listened to the whole thing because I was like,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, Nier always has.
What are we looking at?
So,
It's the
Okay,
worst.
we're looking at the map.
so in Trails,
You need to text this to Chase so we can put it on the, on the screen.
Trails in the Sky is happening here.
That only in that area.
Only in this area. You're encountering characters from this place, which is the Calvar Republic.
All that black region. That's stuff that hasn't even been in games yet.
We don't even know yet.
But we know it exists.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where people were thinking that the next set of games might be the Calvar Republic, because Trails of Cold Steel is this, the Erebonian Empire. These guys had a big war 10 years
man.
before this game started, and you're playing 4 games now, Trails of Cold Steel, in this continent with all the crap that's going on. The 2 unreleased games in America happen. Where do they happen at? Right here in the Independence Crossbelt states. So there's stuff that happens here in 2 games, stuff that happens here in 4 games, stuff that happens here in 3 games so far, and all of that is within a 3-year in-game time period.
And so that's it, though. Like, there's
For
only
now.
9 games so far.
For now.
Okay, and we only have the 7 of them. We're supposed to get the other 2.
Yes, they'll
this
release this summer.
So do characters just come from these other northern regions?
I have no idea what those northern regions are.
Okay, but clearly we know what they are.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Like some insane D&D campaign.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But so I don't know what the holy city of Arteria is. Yeah, so there's the developers of the games are trying to do something with this content and tell something.
When games do world building really well, that is one of the best things to get me engrossed in a game.
And that's what I wanted.
And that's one of the things that can like help me overcome I am putting over 100 hours into this.
It better be worth it.
Like seems really tedious. Like if the world building is there, I can do it.
Right.
If the world building isn't there, I'm gonna drop that game.
And I'm a lot the same way. This game so far has been delivered. Like I've never wanted to speed through, okay, I've got to go over here and kill 10 things so I can get this gun, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when I do it, dialogue starts changing and people have reacted to it.
That's so cool.
And I'm just
oh my god.
See, I really like that.
I want to try it.
But like a lot, I just feel like I don't have the patience.
Are they
for
only
it.
on
It takes a lot.
So
So
they're
they're
only on PC?
No, they're on
No,
they're on the PS. Well,
Are all of them on
No,
PS4?
the
or
Sky one
all
is,
of
I
them.
think, only on PC.
so on all 7 of them are on PC right now.
yeah.
The 0 ones that happen in Crossbell, those 2 games have not been released yet. They are on PC, but they're not officially purchasable in America outside of importing them yet, and they don't have official translations yet either. Which this is one of those kind of series where people, I think, might want to wait for official translations because all this crap links together.
Yeah.
So if you're getting
If you want a
localization,
mistranslation about something,
it's gonna throw off stuff a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're not graphically intensive like the first Trails games. They came out on the PSP, so they can pretty much run on a potato. And they're
the Cold Steel, like that one started coming out on the Vita and PS4.
You have Cold Steel?
Yeah, I have the first Cold Steel. I got the limited edition.
And I would say if you want heavy world building with some pretty good so far really good payoff, and I'm only a game in a 4th in, it's been good. But yes, it does take a lot of patience, but I will also say, bro, you played the Persona games, you should be able to do this.
What's the last video game that like I actually sat down and like played through? Was it Persona or
Did you finish
Automata?
Zero Time Dilemma?
No.
About to say,
No,
you
you didn't.
platinumed Persona
platinumed-
5 Royal, right?
I did. I platinumed Royal and I platinumed
Ghost of
Automata and Ghost of Tsushima. I just can't remember what I played last. I think
And Last of Us, but Last of Us was
Last
first.
of Us 2, yeah. I think I played Automata last. I think I beat
Was it Automata?
I think I beat Automata after Persona 5.
And after Ghost of Tsushima?
I think I started playing it before Ghost of Tsushima, beat Ghost of Tsushima, and then finished
So
Automata.
Persona 5 came out in like April last year.
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima came out in
It's
like
only been
July.
out a year.
Ghost of Tsushima came out in like
It's
July.
been out a
you're right.
year.
Yeah, because I beat Persona and then Ghost of Tsushima.
You're right.
Because
And let me
Persona
see.
5 was so good.
There wasn't any Switch game that you played, right?
I don't think so.
No, no one.
Oh my god.
So I
need
put
to play more video games.
I put a pause on. I've actually had a ton of time to do it now since I'm like, it's weird because like with the kid, I can't do anything, but I have all this time
Right.
that I have to always have open, but she isn't consuming it all the time, but she is. So I'm like, well, what do I do? Well, I guess I'll read. So I'm like 80 books in. I'm like, I need to do something else. So I guess I'll play. Yeah, I've
80 books in.
I've had a ton of time.
so much.
So I've done that. Well, when you're up at 3 and you've been awake for 18 hours,
When you're going crazy.
there's only so much I can do. So
I'm really bad at like taking time. Like I can have that same dilemma where I'm like, I could be using this time to do something. I'm really bad at making it do anything other than watch YouTube.
That hits it, yeah, bro.
So
I need to stop watching YouTube, honestly, because I look at it like the recommendations on just like the homepage,
and you just
and I'm
get
like,
sucked
I don't
in.
want to watch any of these, and I start clicking on the ones that have been there the longest just so they'll go away, and I can have other things recommended to me.
Right.
So
Like, this is not healthy. I could watch anime, I could play video games, I could literally read or listen to an audiobook. I have so many audiobooks.
So to get you into the inner workings of some of the mild autism in my brain, when I have lists, I have to complete them. So what I do is, hey, if I want to like not just waste time and do YouTube, I make a list, 5 books. I'm like, all right, I have to do these. And for some reason, my brain's like, we got to do it. And
try that.
then what I do is I play video games because I get tired of reading, or when I've read something, I want to think about it. So I play video games and it gets my mind off of it, and you kind of go in that subconscious thinking.
I know what you mean.
So I'll sit there and I'll like play, like I've been engaged in the Trails games, but I'm still thinking about what I read. And then all of a sudden I'll be like kind of bored of playing, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back and go to that list again. And I just kind of bounce back and forth between the two.
Part of it is I get like really in my own head about like, I have to be in the right mood
Just do
to
it.
understand.
You just gotta
like,
do it.
To like I need to sit down and watch Godzilla vs. Kong. I haven't watched it yet.
It's.
I'm like, I need to be in the right mood to watch this.
Just
I'm like,
watch it.
No.
Just watch it.
I have time. Just watch the movie.
Yep.
Like, why is this so hard? I can sit down and watch YouTube for 3 hours for no purpose at all, but I can't just watch what? It's not even like 2 hours. It's
No,
like an hour
it's
50
yeah.
maybe.
It's pretty short.
Yeah.
Now for a little wrench into it. Is there anything you guys like to create?
And see, that's the thing. I'm not a big.
I don't really have a
When
creative
you have
outlet.
to, when you throw in, well, I could be doing some editing.
So
As soon as my keycaps come in, though, I've got another keyboard.
so
to start
the
soldering.
only thing I've ever been good at creating is writing things,
Okay.
and I'm kind of in this like I don't have.
I've seen your posts on Goodreads.
I probably should write a book,
You
but I'm
really should.
But I'm one of those like I don't.
You should write a book.
Nathan and I have actually debated about doing that. It's like, Jeff, you should really write a book. I'm like, but I don't know what I should write it about. I'm not good at writing fiction, and there's no like thing I'm really like I gotta write about this. So
I've actually been trying to dabble a little bit into it as best I can.
it's fun.
I'm not good.
I enjoy
Good place to start.
I enjoy writing, but I'm in one of those like I don't have anything to write about, so I just consume things and then write down my ideas from the things I consume.
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
like collate them into like so here's like a book or like a story that's the deposit of all the things that I've just consumed after
Just
a while.
write an entire book that's a response to someone else's book.
I've thought about it, but I'm
Like,
like
I feel like that would be great for you to do. Like,
I've thought about it, but I'm like I would literally only be doing that because I'm doing it.
why not? What's wrong with that?
True. Someone out there maybe.
Be awesome.
Because I mean, like, what's it called? Like, you know how like sometimes you're in the shower or something like that, and then
That's
you have
the-
like a great idea.
Everybody
So that-
is a consummate
Yeah.
philosopher when they're in the shower.
Yes.
Everyone.
Shower thoughts.
When I get out, if I still remember it, I'm like, oh, okay, computer.
I gotta go write that
it
down.
Write it down.
Because you'll forget.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like writing down these things, like because like eventually gonna be a big movie creator guy, right?
There you go.
So,
There you
The
go.
next
So-
Quentin Tarantino right here,
the
guys.
next one right here. I've got this idea. I'm like, well, I don't know anything about it, but I want this one scene to be at a restaurant, and I want it to be 2 booths, or not booths, like 2 tables that have like 2 people on them and stuff like that. So 2 of them right here, 2 people right here face each other, and then 2 people right here face each other, but they're all one group. They're all 4, like just for no reason, they're just sitting here. Even though there's like booths with like 4 seats or whatever, they're like put into these spots. And like it goes on, and it has these 2 people talking. And then one of them just starts from the other table, just starts like talking, like interjecting or whatever. And you don't know that they're friends until like the end of the scene. So I'm like, that's perfect.
Man.
And I had to write it down. So,
Yeah, there's so many times I wake up and I'm like, Like you're just like having those like the
Yeah,
best dream, and you're like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Totally forget them.
I don't know if Eric has told you guys about this yet, but since I have to go to bed at like 7:30 and I wake up at some ungodly hour, going to bed at that time isn't the most natural for me. So your brain has a hormone that it automatically sends to your body when it wants to get sleepy. It's called melatonin. I've been taking some before I go to bed.
That stuff knocks you out.
Bruh. So not only does
Are
it
you
make me
getting high?
does it not only make me sleep, it's more like drowsing than fall asleep. Not only does it kick me in the butt and make me fall asleep, I got some crazy dreams now. So I normally don't ever remember my dreams or have very vivid dreams. Bruh, they are wild.
Are
And
they like the kind where like you can kind of like decide where you're going?
oh
like,
yes,
like straight up like
I'm
lucid dreaming type
I'm
stuff.
very active in all the things going on, and then afterwards, I like pretty much forget most of it. Like most
Oh,
people
yeah,
do, like
yeah.
20 minutes. But I'm like, they're very vivid and very memorable. I was talking to Eric about it because I gave him some melatonin because he just wanted to die. I'm like, here, take some of my melatonin. He's like, all right, and he's like, bruh, my dreams are crazy.
I need to get some melatonin.
So not only is it a natural hormone for your body to go to sleep with, and I don't know if this is indicative for everybody, but it might give you some crazy dreams. So if you're one, and from what I understand, for people that want to learn or remember their dreams and control them, lucid dream better, the trick has always been keep a paper and pen by your bed, and when you wake up, immediately start writing down things that happen in your dream.
Yeah, so I heard another thing. The pen and paper is like the classic method, but you can also just use like a voice recorder.
Yeah,
app.
voice record it or just type it in your phone.
I feel like that would work a lot better for me
Yeah,
because
do it.
I'd be much more inclined to wake up and hit a button and just start talking about what I'm thinking instead of. I'd probably end up with the weirdest recordings.
So all I'm saying, Chase, if I would totally.
Telling me to take drugs.
All I'm saying is we just had 420.
No,
so if you had some crazy dreams you wanted to remember to get some more ideas, highly recommend it.
I do. Because like when you wake up, you're just like, that was crazy, and then you forget it.
Yep.
And it's just like, but it was crazy and stuff, and you can just remember about it.
I actually want to start using like my voice recorder because Google actually made their own like voice recorder app.
Yeah.
And it's actually a pretty good voice recorder. Like it's solid for taking notes. It transcribes everything. So like you can search the thing by word. I don't remember
what's the app called?
I think it's. I thought it was on my phone. Oh, you know what? I recently got a new phone, so I probably have to re-download it. But I think it's just called Voice or like Voice Recorder. If you type it in, it should come up. Oh, there it is. It's just Recorder.
Oh, is it Recorder?
It's just straight up Recorder. It's got that kind of.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
But
oh yeah.
it just transcribes and
Auto-transcription.
everything. You can keep your stuff offline, save it to the cloud, access it from different places. It's awesome. It's so good. The hardest thing is like if you use it for like recording, like I don't know, like say you're in some kind of lecture or something, use it for recording.
Right.
It probably won't transcribe very well just because like
Right.
if you're close and talking to it, it's much better.
Right. The quality's better.
But you can straight up just be like, you can title like whatever you're talking about, and like I said, it transcribes everything, and you can just search it by word
It's crazy.
to like find where it was in that spot, and it'll like highlight it, and then like you can go to that section of the recording and listen to it. It's so good.
Oh,
Google's
that-
AI tech is just
That may be a bad idea.
It's beautiful.
Because instead of like writing all my notes down after I've read stuff, I just kind of like in a doctor's office where they set the recording and they have to do their transcriptions or something. Instead of me just writing things down, I'll just set the recorder and be like, well,
I'm not listening anymore.
have to figure out what I think about this thing. And
It's-
just have the recording go. That's scary.
It's really nice. I want to use it more for stuff like that, like just improving my
Right,
memory,
right.
keeping track of things like that, like
Yeah,
dream
that
journal
seems
kind
to
of
be
stuff,
super
but also
helpful.
just like
Dream.
remembering what I'm thinking at certain points.
Yeah.
I think that would be extremely useful for me, but I'm not even disciplined enough to do that.
Well, today
Place to start.
Today is the day. So
Yeah.
make,
Good point,
make the
Mama
list
girl.
and be like, this is what I
Do
have to. I
me.
have to do this.
Yeah, I need to. That's
I-
what I need to do.
I think for me, that's just a weird thing how my brain is because I have to complete lists, which is why I hate playing
I'm
games
like the same
sometimes.
way, like if I put like even like a shopping list together,
I ha-
like if I can't like cross something off, I'll either change what it is or like straight up like, I need to delete this. I can't leave the list unfinished. Like even if it's 100% like not my fault that I can't do it, I can't just leave the item on the list unchecked.
So that
Which
could
is
be
nice because Google Keep lets me
so
check
that could be a
boxes.
strength or a weakness, and I try to use it more as a strength instead of saying, you know what, instead of not completing lists. All right, I've got to do this thing, but I'm gonna make it a thing that's productive that I have to do. Like some people make lists because I have to make a list because I'm not gonna get anything done if I don't do it. For me, it's kind of like that, but it's more like a
OCD
it's
kind of
it's
thing?
yeah, I guess. So I'm like, well, instead of that being a flaw, why don't I just take advantage of the bug in the system?
Yeah, right.
So
Because I do that at work. When I'm
I do the same
doing
thing
my
too.
stuff, I have to like put checkbox. I need to email this person about this. I need to call this person and figure out I need an answer to this question.
So if you want to
like I can check boxes off.
So if you want to
make sure I
find
do
a way
things.
to not waste as much personal time, that might be a way to do it. Because that's what I do. I literally, here's the books I want to read, and then whenever I'm getting to a point in it where I'm just like overloaded with information, or I need to sit and process things, I go and play video games. And that's literally all I've done for like 7 or 8 weeks. Or I feed Charlotte or wipe her butt.
I don't have
that happens.
I don't have the lisping as much. It's more of just like if I'm not doing something productive, it feels like I'm wasting time.
Oh, okay. I
So it's
wish
like,
I wish I were
Yeah,
like that too.
it's more
sometimes.
of like if I'm completing a
Yeah.
game that I wanted to play, am I watching something that I wanted to watch, or am I literally making something that I wanted to make or something?
Gotcha.
If it's not any of those, it feels like I'm wasting time.
That's the
Gotcha.
thing. I feel like I'm wasting time, but I'm like completely incapable of not wasting the time for some reason. Because, like I said before, it was like I feel like I have to be in the right state of mind to not waste time.
Just do it.
Just so stupid.
That was actually so. I've always read a bunch, but it always wasn't like things like books and stuff.
Yeah.
And my biggest hurdle was exactly that. I'm like, well, I've got to be in like the right mode to do it. Just freaking sit down and do it.
Yeah.
5 or 10 minutes in, it kind of sucks, but something like clicks, and then I'm like, okay,
Oh,
and then
here
I'm
we
just
go.
gone. Yeah.
Once
Like,
as you
like,
get the gears turning
like
fast
almost
enough,
every
yeah.
time I start reading, the first 5 or 10 minutes, I hate it. But
Yeah.
but after that, I'm gone for hours if someone doesn't stop me. Like I kid you not, I despise the first 5 or 10 minutes of reading. But I look at that list, I'm like, I really need to get through these things because it's on my list.
That's insane.
So then I start
Okay.
reading it, and then I'm the same way as everyone else. Like the first couple pages or paragraphs, I have to like reread a couple times because
Yeah.
I'm not really into it. But something in my brain's like, I got you. Time. and then I'm gone.
Deja vu.
And then I fly, which is why I probably read quicker than some people. It isn't. I get lost.
Yeah.
So once I start that reading,
Do you
I
know
just
how fast
fly.
you read in like words per minute? 'Cause
So
I know you can test that, but I don't know. Like,
So I've done the test with the reading comprehension and just the straight up reading speed.
Mm-hmm.
With the comprehension, I'm about 500 or 600 words a minute. Without the comprehension, it's twice that. Like when I'm in skim mode and I just want to get like a basic frame
Yeah.
of what's being communicated, I can do 1,200 words a minute.
yeah, because that's something I've tried to work on before.
It's
hard to
so-
just. It's because like the innate state for I think a majority of people is when you read, you're not reading out loud, but you are in your head. You are physically like saying those
and you
words in
and
your
you can
head.
and you can
don't
skim.
need to.
You can your brain is very capable of seeing the words, understanding how those words are generally used,
Yeah.
and comprehending just skimming and flying.
Yeah.
What stops your brain is if people start doing things that isn't structured the same way you're used to seeing them, which is why I'm very slow at reading fiction, because you don't write fiction that way.
True.
And that's when I can't just skim it because it's usually very differently written than just
Yeah.
conversational kind of stuff.
makes sense.
Or stuff that's just like really dense and hard to get through. Usually the language isn't as conversational, so the brain takes a little longer to process. But if it's just like a normal book that's written at a pretty reasonable reading level, my brain's just like, I don't really need to read everything. I can just
Yeah, you can just like from context, you can fill in all those little gaps that you would miss by
But-
not like taking the time to read it.
I will
But, like
s-
the payoff is.
I will say it's a learned trait.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not normally like that. So I think Warren Buffett's the one that said reading also is one of the fields that has compounding interest. The more you read, the the more when you do read, you don't have to as much because you've seen those things already. Not necessarily those words and ideas, but since you've read so much, you understand how those words and how grammar and all that functions. So when you see it, unless what the author's saying is something you're not familiar with.
It's like predicting what people are about to say.
Right.
But looking at it instead.
So I usually do that, and there's a really good book. There's a really good book by Adler and Mortensen, I think are their names. It's called How to Read a Book, and they pretty much go through that.
Put it on the list.
And literally, unless it's fiction, go to the table of contents and see, because a book isn't going to be some crazy, I have no idea how to follow the author. When you look at the table of contents, you can usually figure out what the author's trying to tell you. And literally, you're just reading the book to fill in the arguments of why that point is the way the author's making it. So you can skim a lot faster. And that has saved me an inordinate amount of time too, because most of the time I'll pick up a book and I'll be like, all right, is this a topic I'm familiar with? And I look at the table of contents and I'm pretty familiar with it. I don't have to take nearly as much time to read it. If it's something I'm unfamiliar with, I look at the table of contents, I'm like, all right, I understand conceptually what this is about. Let me see what direction it's going to go in. And I'll read a little slower, but it's better than just going like, I have no idea what's going to happen in the next page. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next chapter. I've already seen the table of contents. I kind of know what's coming up conceptually.
Yeah,
so that lets you read faster because your brain has less to process and it can just information gather.
Because like going through, I was homeschooled. So when we were going through that, Mom really focused on kind of like the aspect of like reading that like really helped her kind of stuff like retain information while she was going through college and her school and stuff, and it definitely really helped. But it was really a really simple concept. Certainly didn't come up with it herself or anything, but it was essentially, if you're like going through something, skim through the chapter first, look at all your headers, create like a filing cabinet inside your head, and then skim through the different sections and kind of come up with like those subheaders and like things inside each file, and then actually read it, and you already have a skeleton to file all that information under, instead of just trying to read it all the way through. And you kind of, if a book is laid out perfectly, you can just read that information and it'll file itself away. Books aren't written perfectly.
Right. So you've got to read through it and call some of that information.
Actually like informational textbooks and stuff.
Right.
They're like, I mean, a fictional story, it's going to be written the way it's intended to be written. Right. Which, if it's imperfect, it was intended to be imperfect, generally speaking. Though sometimes it's just objectively not written well. I guess that's a thing. But
you'll know too. You'll know too as you read it. You'll realize something's weird and off
what's
about
going on
this.
here.
But yeah, there is a lot to that, and How to Read a Book gives you a lot of that information. And Buffett is right. The more you read, there's a lot of compound interest that gets built because you've seen so much of that before. Yeah, nothing really different is going to be thrown your way once you start reading that.
Which is also kind of one of the things that, like, I'm not necessarily a fast reader, but I'm not.
Most people,
I would say I'm a pretty average reader.
Right, and most people aren't unless they read often. Because I was the same way too.
But I'm really surprised with how little I read, how decent I feel at reading. Like, I feel like vocabulary and stuff is one of those things that you read more, you're going to have a better vocabulary. And I don't feel like I'm really lacking in that area. Right. Which is, like I said, I don't read. I'm not. Don't do books.
Some people just might be good conversationalists. And usually when you watch a lot of movies and stuff too, there's vocabulary that you pick up from that.
That makes sense. But
yeah,
I do enjoy that. Like, just like that kind of learned aspect of it.
Yeah, reading is definitely that.
It does give me a nice little with superiority complex buzz.
Look of superiority.
I know the big words.
The big thing that helps.
And then I read anything you write, and I'm like,
again,
you used 4 words I don't know in one sentence.
Again, a lot of
and somehow I kind of understand what you're talking about.
A lot of that is learned, and the best thing I have discovered for comprehension, just in general, I have to write down what's going on, summarize it in my own thinking, even if it's just like a sentence, and you have to interact with what you're reading with, even if it's fiction, because if you interact with it, you have to know what you read, and you retain it that way.
That honestly, so I've never really thought about that.
And that
totally makes sense, because like one of the audiobooks I've been listening to. I've been going
And
through Harry Potter.
And see, that's the easiest gateway drug, because when you hear it, you can almost talk back to it,
Exactly.
and then you
like,
retain
I find
it better.
myself
Yep.
doing that, like just like, why is he doing that? Like just responding
Yep.
to what's happening, even with just like random like little stuff.
And
It's just
that's-
like, oh, that's hilarious.
and that's the
Oh,
key.
Going through Fellowship of the Ring, I'm like, how Tom Bombadil?
A
How
crazy weird chapter,
you-
right? How did he see him?
How did he see him? Why didn't the ring turn him invisible? I have no idea what's happening. Is this woman just a flower? I'm kind of confused.
But see, those are the things, if you're interacting with the text instead
But,
of
like,
just...
I remember it so much
Yep.
better, and like I'm not doing it intentionally. It's just a good way of doing it. But like reading, like
It's
sitting
the
down with
same,
a book.
Same way.
It's
you
definitely the same thing.
you
but
talk to it.
yeah. Oh.
Did I tell you guys after you recommended the Narnia books all in one package?
Oh, yeah.
I went through it all in 1 week. And Jared was with me too, because
Nice.
like as we were working
That's
or whatever. And stuff.
awesome.
Those are very good books.
Oh, they're
like,
so
I
good.
really like. So the only ones I haven't read. Excuse me. The only ones I haven't read is I haven't read The Horse and the Boy.
That's
The
a
Horse and
weird
His
one.
Boy. I really like that one.
It's a good one. It's a weird one.
I really like The Horse and the Boy. And The Last Battle, I've only read like the first like
Okay.
2 chapters of it or whatever.
Oh.
Up until Shift and Puzzle.
So I'm not gonna lie, I've read none of them yet.
You-
So
What?
I know.
Dude, you can get through.
Listen,
you can get through
I know,
one book in like 2 hours.
Yeah, they're short. They're like
So
4-hour
again, for me, fiction, I slow down
Yeah,
a whole
fiction
lot
is-
on, so it'll take me a while longer.
when
But
you
When you
Audiobook.
listen to him,
Yeah.
where did you listen to The Magician's Nephew?
Audible.
did
Well,
you
I meant, did you listen
Oh.
to it at the beginning or end? Because technically it's like book 0.
Oh, it's yeah. So it's like
But
a
it
prequel.
was written last.
It's a prequel.
Did you-
technically too? But it was the first one I read.
did you get
Okay.
did you get the Audible one that was
I
like
get-
that 35-hour with all like the famous actors reading each of the?
Ooh.
Yeah, where all 7 books are 35 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
With what's his face?
I don't even know.
Voyager.
Picard?
Picard.
Yeah.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Okay, yeah.
Patrick Stewart. He did the last one. Or
I
whatever.
gotta look at this.
And he doesn't got a very good little girl voice.
Does he
I'd
not?
say. No.
So, funnily enough,
kinda
this,
ear pierces.
just because of celebrities and whatever reading audiobooks, I started. So I went through. Jeez. So Star Wars has released the High Republic chunk of stuff that they're doing, and I read the flagship book, the whatever the Jedi book is for the High Republic. It was kind of garbage. I didn't like it. But since I had so much time as well, I rewatched and finally watched all of the Clone Wars series and Rebels.
I've never gone through it.
There is an Ahsoka book that I'm going through right
Really?
now. The actress who voiced Ahsoka reads the book as well,
Oh.
and it's really good going through the book, having the literal
same,
voice actor
yeah.
read the book for you.
That's
so
pretty cool.
it's really cool.
Mere Christianity is free on
Yes,
Audible.
I actually listened. I
I've
listened
not
to it on
actually
Audible.
Gone through that whole book.
The guy who reads it is very, very good.
Joffrey
And
Howard.
it's
Joffrey
pretty
Howard?
it's pretty fun listening to it, because again, when you listen to it, it's a lot easier to interact, and interacting with Lewis is it was fun. It was interesting with points that he made that I actually really disagreed with, and then other points I was like, he's really spot on here. Why aren't more people doing it's really fun. Audiobooks are like the best gateway into reading, because then you're like, oh, I can do this as well myself, but faster. And have the
Yeah.
look of superiority, saying, oh, you listened to it, I read it. But whatever. Kind of like the
that's
anime,
fair.
manga thing.
bedtime story.
But I
You listen to
highly
you watch the dub.
but I highly recommend audiobooks, because it gets, most people listen to podcasts now. Audiobooks are kind of like that gateway into, a lot of them are narrated to kind of be like that,
Yeah.
even though it's a single person, but you inherently want to interact with.
I
someone
found
giving you
audiobooks
information.
so much more accessible to me than reading.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't read very much. I have trouble sitting down and reading a book
It's
because
acquired.
it's hard to get into it, but also I think the big issue is I sit down and I'm like, the last thing I want to do, the last form of entertainment I want to do is read a book. I
Right.
want to watch
Yep,
TV,
and that's
play
fair.
a video game or something, listen to music, it's whatever.
It's the
Also, I
presentation.
typically lean toward reading fictional stories.
Oh, yeah.
I love my sci-fi. I love my sci-fi.
And
give me
there's-
some Dune.
And there's,
I'm
I will always say the best stories and the best kinds of world building that will ever exist are always going to come from literature.
Yeah.
And the screen almost always draws from that and,
It does, yeah.
adapts it. There's very few, like Tarantino's some of the exception, but there's very few original things that happen in cinema that happen just because cinema's a thing. Most of the time, it's already been invented through storytelling on paper.
Yeah,
So,
it's been around for
I
thousands of years.
I point towards the Chronicles of Narnia movies, the ones that Disney made, and also Fox.
So the only ones I've seen, Lion, Witch, in the Wardrobe. I think everyone saw that. I saw Prince Caspian. I don't remember much from
It
it.
was fun. I remember that.
And those are the only two I've seen.
Prince Caspian alone, that movie, if they did what the book did, it would be boring as anything.
Honestly,
And it is literally them just walking around the woods for like hours. And
literally.
Aslan.
It's been so long since I've read the Chronicles of Narnia. I honestly don't remember like any of the books, other than like the very overarching story of the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the Magician's Nephew, and the Last Battle. And all I really know about the Last Battle is like the very end.
So
Where it's like, oh,
Dude,
what?
Yeah.
What?
The very end of the last battle, dude. Let me tell you something. You have to do the Chronicles of Narnia just to get to the literal last line of it. I'm not kidding.
okay.
It's insane.
It's just like,
You just
Oh.
there's no way you can see it coming.
Okay.
There's no way you see things coming.
Now you're gonna make me go upstairs to the nursery and grab the Chronicles of Narnia on the shelf and just start plowing through them.
man.
What, you own them already? You haven't read them?
Please.
Listen,
Come on.
You will really. It's more of like
One
know,
credit on Audible, 35 hours. You're good.
I've
You're
already,
gonna watch it double speed anyway.
I've already got it anyway.
I'm actually gonna get it
if
right
you're
now
a
because I've got a free
Christian
credit
and
with
then
nothing
you,
to spend
if
it
you're
on.
a Christian and then you watch the Narnia or listen, read, whatever.
Oh yeah, you
It's 1,000 times better.
right.
It's,
Yes.
It is like amazing.
So I think now we can have that conversation.
It's the adult. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
box
okay.
set, yeah.
So I will upset
Because they say
whatever
queer a lot, isn't it?
whatever.
Dude, they say queer so much in Lord of the Rings. It's everywhere.
So
queer folk out there.
for whatever
Thanks, Jim Mayer,
listeners,
whatever.
for whatever listeners or watchers we have out there, I'm going to say it. I hate the conversation of the book was better than the movie because
They're not the same.
they are not. If, like Chase was saying, sometimes when you adapt a really good book kind of one for one onto a screen, you don't make a good movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to adapt it. And
Oh,
I
it
think
does not work.
I think Lord of the Rings is another really good one too. Should have Jackson made Tom Bombadil a character in the Lord of the Rings movie. I think, and I'm going to offend some people, he probably made a good decision of not having that chapter.
Yeah.
Does it progress the overall narrative? Not really. Does it help with the world building and the mystery that comes with Middle Earth? And
little bit.
it does,
Yeah.
but
He never shows up again in the other books.
that's the only time
That's
Tom
it.
Bombadil ever shows up. So Peter Jackson made the controversial decision to not have Tom Bombadil in the movie at all, which I agree with. I don't agree with some of the things he did, like that weird ring wraith thing towards the end of Two Towers where Frodo looks at the
Watching it
whatever.
tonight.
Yeah,
It's been so long since I've seen it.
all that stuff happens. Not a single place in the books. He made all that stuff up, and
Interesting.
it's debatable because does it progress the story? Yeah. Does it show the temptation of the ring and all the stuff? Yeah. It's
Prince Caspian movie when they're infiltrating the castle at night doesn't exist. Never even happened in
but
the
it
book.
makes for good cinema.
It makes for real good
yeah.
cinema. And the battle at the end, it was like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, the same thing with the three Hobbit movies. They adapted that book, not just almost one for one, added to it, and they're not nearly as good as the Lord of the Rings ones. In fact, the whole last movie, the Battle of the Five Armies, that's
I was very disappointed with that.
That
Bare-
was like 10 minutes.
barely a chapter in the actual book itself.
Yeah.
And they made this gigantic stuff with all this extra things that happen, which is cool because you
The
want to
old
see a
cartoons.
battle.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember a lot of the cartoons. They're
Same, yeah.
creepy and
They're-
weird.
oh, yeah,
Those
they're
cartoons
really
are great.
Creepy
They
and
were
weird.
made on an acid trip.
But it's just like, yeah, you like look at him, it's just like, yeah, this is better.
But yeah, I will always defend the counter to whatever arguments the book was better than the movie. I will always say the book and the movie tend to do two different things. They're trying to accomplish. Are they both trying to tell a story? Yes, but they're doing them in different ways. And what cinema does, if you adapt that into a book, you're probably not going to get a very good book. And usually, when you have a book and adapt it to cinema, if you do it one for one, you're not going to get a very good movie.
Yeah.
Even though they're both trying to tell a story.
My issue, and where I do understand the book was better than the movie argument, is when they do so much to change the movie from the book, and the movie's still not good.
Yeah. So
Like Ready Player One, if you haven't read the book, it's a decent, fun movie. But if you've read the book,
It's
a
very different.
different story.
I rock. What are you doing here in the? And you've done nothing in the book.
Like, yeah, like they like
You're just
fundamentally-
a dude.
Like they fundamentally like took multiple characters and just like conglomerated them into one person
Yep.
to like fill all those roles. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't feel like that was necessary. I feel like they took a lot of liberties, and I get that with doing that. They have to do that when taking a book and making it a movie, but they changed so much, and it didn't help.
Well, was the Gundam scene in the book?
No.
I don't think so.
So almost a lot of the things that happen. So the only I guess
To
it's
be
not
fair,
a.
the book itself was just a nostalgia fest.
Yeah.
And the movie
Okay.
itself was just a nostalgia fest.
So I guess it's not a counter, but the only I like when the book and the movie are different because I get to experience the same thing two different ways.
Yeah, that's
now,
true.
Now, hopefully, they're both good.
Yes.
If like the book is good and the movie just sucks as a movie, then it's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that if you're going to adapt it in the movie and you're going to like change some things, make big changes and make it good because
Yeah.
that way I experience it from two different angles and I really appreciate both of them. I really like that
Sonic
because
the Hedgehog, man.
I've actually been told that
Let's get into video
Princess
game movie
Bride
adaptations.
the movie is actually better than
the book. I actually have the book sitting in my, but I haven't read it yet. But I've heard much of the same thing too.
I certainly haven't read the book. Not my thing.
But
But that movie, considering how good it is, and that is like honestly flawless. I don't know if a more perfect movie has ever been made. Yeah, I don't know how they could top
The
that.
Passion of the Christ exists, you disgusting
That book is
mongrel.
horrible.
have you seen both Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Willy Wonka?
I have, yes, and
yeah.
they're both. And from what I understand, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is much more faithful to.
The newer one with Johnny Depp
Yeah.
is more faithful to the book.
Gene
Willy
Wilder's Willy Wonka.
Movie's an acid trip.
I love it. Well, just the one scene with the riverboat.
The movie's an acid
So
trip.
good though.
What is going on?
I
It's just like-
nightmare inducing, and
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I really like both of them for different reasons.
I do
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do too.
I think the newer one is like it's a better movie, but I think the other one has better music. The older
You think
one
the
has-
newer one is better than the old one?
I think the newer one is a better movie.
And actually,
To be fair, I think very, very highly of the first one, and I love
I
Gene
don't-
Wilder, so like I've gotta be. But yeah, I love the second one. Plus it's got shoot, what's his name? Count Dooku.
oh yeah.
He played the dad.
Lord Tyrannus, daggone it.
Lee. Lee.
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee.
Man, God
Rip in
bless
pieces.
him. Rip.
So, fact I saw on the internet, I think last week about him, he was the last person that saw an official execution in France with a guillotine, while also being one of the only people to see that and like be an actor in a major motion picture or something because of how old he was. Yeah, he literally saw somebody get killed with a guillotine in France while at the same time acting in Hollywood.
Wow.
So,
at the same time.
What I did, he's the only person not simultaneously.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He wasn't like
Gotcha.
in a movie watching someone get their
yeah.
head chopped off
He
for
like
real.
he like looks out the window. Oh, there's the head, and then he turns around.
Oh,
and he's
okay.
Like, back
I
in the
can't
character.
believe
So, yeah.
you've done this.
So
Back in the character.
So I didn't know this as well, so I'm probably gonna have to go back and read this once I get done watching them. But the Godfather films
Yeah.
is a book.
Is it based on? A book?
It is an adaptation of a book, yes.
I did not know.
So now-
one book or like 3 books?
From what I understand, it's one book. One book,
okay.
The Godfather, and
One big book.
the first novel, hold on.
Okay, so it is multiple.
Second novel is The Sicilian, and then there's The Godfather Returns, The Godfather's Revenge. So yeah, there's more books than there are movies, but yeah, so there's The Godfather, The Sicilian,
Pretty loud, though.
Godfather Returns, Godfather's
Why?
Revenge, The Family Orleans. So yeah, 5 books. 3 movies.
I did not realize there
So
were
yeah,
books. I thought
I'm
they were
always
original screenwriters.
I'm always a big fan of books and then movies and adaptations of movies into books. The only exceptions is when we have things that exist like Twilight. Sorry. Or 50 Shades.
Hey, in her defense, she made Twilight,
She got
She
Mad
made her money.
Bank
She
and
made her money.
and she left.
and she
And
left it alone.
she realized it. She's like, I'm getting a bunch of preteen and teen dollars by making handsome werewolves, sparkly vampires, and crazy weird love things. And they're giving me money for this. See, that's what I need to do. I need to find some weird preteen thing that they'll just latch onto. That's stupid and dumb, and I hate doing it, but it prints money.
That's literally anything.
That's like the guy who made Sword Art Online. Oh, no. I'm just
Sex
kidding.
sells, Jeff.
So yeah, maybe that's what I'll do in my spare time.
Like,
I'd listen to the audiobook.
narrated by me. I will let Chase do the film adaptation.
Yeah.
There you go. We're in. We're in.
You're gonna have to be there while I'm directing.
Of course.
The whole time.
And I'll probably be a cameo character in
Yeah,
it,
I'll
or
be like,
he'll like make me the main character. It's like, hey, you made them do this thing. I'm like, Chase, I really don't want to do that to a bear. Really don't want to have that happen to me. So
But if you wrote about it,
can we just make an anime instead? Just make an anime studio and direct an anime.
It's all fake.
You watch Shira Bakano or whatever. You can make you
Shiro
Shiro
Bakano.
you know
Shirabakano.
you know how to
Come
make
on.
you know how to make your own
Come
anime.
on.
Shiro
This is
Bakano.
BakaTaka, and you're saying Shirabakano?
You know I didn't watch
know
it.
better than this.
You know I didn't watch
Didn't
it.
watch what?
Gross.
Shirabako or Bakano? Pick one. Didn't watch both? You've definitely watched
They're
Bakano.
like bleeding into each other.
Come on. Disgusting.
Shiro Bakano.
What's the time on this? How long have we been doing after hours?
Who
I think
cares?
it's been like an hour.
Have you started a time? Did you start a timer?
No, I don't do a timer.
You don't do a timer for this?
No, we go as long as we
Okay.
So a video game that I haven't beat yet. It's like my
Am I allowed to go to the bathroom in the middle of this?
yeah. Eric does all the time.
We'll have to cut it out so we don't hear it.
There's a video game I've been playing
Right.
in between all the other stuff for like 5-10 minute time killers.
Okay.
Super Mario 3D World.
The new one?
Yeah. So I haven't gotten to that yet. I think I'm in World 6 or World 7 right now in Mario 3D World. But you have to understand, I literally play this game in like 5 or 10 minute bursts. I literally do a level, get all the collectibles because I have to get all the shiny things because I hate myself, and then I'm done. So I literally do like a level, and then maybe 3 days later I'll do another level and just kind of keep marching along the game. So I'm in World 7 right now, and I've been doing this, I think, since it released on the Switch. So
Me and George last time were playing some Bowser's Fury, right? It's not a good 2-player game.
is it not?
It's not. One person plays as this one like floaty guy. I can't remember his name. What was it? Koopa Kid? Yeah, Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. can't die. He can fly off screen and literally kill enemies before Mario gets there.
Wow.
And so you just follow Mario around and do stuff. So it feels kind of like not fun because you're literally just move closer, hit A, move closer, hit A.
Well, it is a children's game.
Yeah. And I remember Mary Grace was talking about it because she thought she was playing Mario Kart. And she's like, yeah, they made me play as this one guy. And she's like, I thought I was doing really good because I couldn't die. So like, but then over there, Trent's laughing.
That's
The whole
funny.
time. And then Aaron walks up. Me and Aaron are listening to this. And she walks away. Aaron's like, she wasn't playing Mario Kart.
That is funny. So I've been playing some Mario 3D World. I've been playing more video games now than I have in years. But another one that I'd started playing and I pick up and play periodically, but not a lot. I've been playing that anime Dark Souls, Code Vein.
Yes.
What a
I tried it a little bit.
What a stupid game.
It is. Like, I'm playing it, and I'm just like, whatever. Whatever, you edgelord.
Yeah, that's how I feel the entire time. So I don't play it very often, but I'm like, all right, I'll give anime Dark Souls another roll.
It's, oh my goodness.
It's pretty stupid. The story's dumb. It's definitely trying to be Dark Souls.
Yeah, oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
And it's definitely trying to be, it's like
Dark Souls with guns and weebs.
weeaboo TNA as much as possible. And I'm like, all right, I get it, whatever. But I'll still play every once in a while because I spent money on this and I don't understand the sunk cost fallacy. So
I have been playing far less video games and watching far less anime this year than I have like forever.
and you've been watching all those movies.
All
and
those movies.
doing all this BakaTaka editing for all of you kiddies
Yeah.
out there for the after hours.
We don't use the site game much for this.
So what are we gonna do for like for Otakon now?
bump
Because
that.
we're gonna show up at Otakon and be like, we don't watch anime.
Well, we're gonna do a live
We're gonna pretend we
BakaTaka
watch
at
anime.
Otakon. We're
Buy
gonna
more Boom Slank merch.
we're gonna do
I've been pretending I've watched anime for years now.
we're gonna do a live BakaTaka at Otakon 2021.
I always do at least one new anime series a year. Last year was Monster. I don't know what to do. Usually I do a rewatch and then I do something new.
Last year I did.
SAO.
Me and George rewatched Steins Gate.
We did that whole thing in a day.
We watched the whole thing in. We went to church Sunday morning. We came over here, watched Steins Gate.
Is it like a 22?
Yeah, 22 episodes.
So I've
Forgot
got
we made it all the way through.
I've got
Still
the
doesn't feel like it's real.
I've got the visual novel in my Steam. I just haven't
I've never.
gotten to it
I've
because
had it on multiple wish lists and I've never picked
According
it up.
to how the anime is,
it's one route, right?
It's just as good as reading it because
Really?
it's literally like the 4th highest rated anime.
So,
So,
used to be number 1, didn't it, for a while?
no, it's always
Never-
been number 2. Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
It's really hard to beat Full Metal Alchemist.
Attack on Titan jumped up there. Attack on Titan's number
It's-
2. Season 3, part 2
I-
was number 2.
I feel like it's gonna be pretty polarizing once it ends.
Final season was number 1, I think. No, it was number 2, and then once it ended, it dropped down to 4.
But we also have to remember, like, there's people that have been invested in these characters for a long
for a decade.
time
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I
When did season 1 come out again?
2013.
13. And the manga's been around since, I mean, it's 12, 13,
anime
12 or
for 8
13 years.
Spring
Bruh,
season
been watching
20.
anime since that Speed Racer on Cartoon Network
was
back
Speed
when I was
Racer?
5 or 6 years old.
dad
And
loves
then,
Speed Racer.
and then
series
Saturday,
on a bonus
early Saturday mornings at Grandma's house, 6, 7 o'clock on Fox, Dragon Ball Z.
Never did Dragon Ball.
I'm gonna send you into another dimension. Ah!
All the shonen stuff.
Nappa,
Really.
destroy
Not really my
the.
thing.
But you've been watching Dr. Stone and Fire Force.
Does that really count?
Yeah,
Does that
it
count
does.
as like
You-
I still feel like those are a little less than like
No.
Dragon Ball Z,
They're
Naruto,
not-
like the big 3.
No,
you know?
so what those ones are the big popular ones.
Yeah,
or whatever. And
but
they have
but
to-
pretty much anything that's blood boiling is a shonen.
And because
Fair enough.
they're popular, they print money or whatever. They have to make them every week, or whatever. There's
Because
no, like,
Shonen
break-
literally just straight up is the magazine they're in.
Yeah,
right?
well, Shonen Jump,
Shonen
but
Jump.
Shonen literally means what? Adolescent boy,
Yeah,
small,
Shonen
small
is
boy.
referring to like youth boy
Yeah, it's the demographic that particular
because
Gotcha.
anime
Yeah.
manga's going out to.
you don't say George Geatline, you say George Shonen or something like that.
I say George Geatline when people ask me.
Or
Jorge
Or if a
Chan.
kid comes up to you, he'll be like George San. Yeah.
Maybe if you knew who.
But yeah, a shonen
Well,
is,
he's
is
looked at that
basically
volume,
is
right?
basically a show that's designated for
Okay.
adolescent boy, which is interesting because Japanese shonens tend to be much more for that age range, much more intricate in the kinds of characters they're building and stories they're telling than American
Yes.
style
So
shows.
the thing about anime is anime pretty much always is made with
Great
a more
equalizer.
well, no matter what, even if it is like a pretty garbage show or whatever, they all have this like moral lesson that they're trying to teach by the end of it. Or
Right.
It doesn't matter, like, what it is or anything and stuff like that. And whether they succeed in it.
Make out with your boyfriend's carcass.
Because I was like, I don't know, man. I
don't think
watched
that's
Trapped
what-
in Another World with my smartphone. I don't know what the lesson was there, but I enjoyed it.
Or like Bible Black. I'm not sure what the
What's the
lesson.
lesson?
I think
What's the takeaway?
What's the lesson? What scripture did they?
Probably John 3:16. Maybe Romans Road.
they ain't no
You watched it, right?
they ain't no scripture in Bible Black. I can tell you that. I've seen that cover. There ain't no scripture in there. But yeah,
I'll tell you, so when you were showing us the all your box of PSPs and stuff,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's
I was just thinking,
Don't bump that.
ah, the world God only knows.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I want it. I want more than world God only knows. That was one of the few things where like the show didn't end, where everything.
Look at this box. There's 3DS.
It's gonna be like Tyler 4 with his spaghetti. He's just gonna spill it all on the floor.
There's chargers. There's the DSi.
I-
There's a DS Lite. There's a DS. This is like.
Okay. Anyway, but yeah, that was one of the few shows. I love this. This is like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
This Vita, I'm holding it upside down. I kind of want to just buy one of these to have. I don't
They're-
even care if I use it.
Dude, listen. Those are gonna slide and fall off.
Does this have two buttons?
No, just
It is just the one button?
Yeah, that's just one.
Because it feels like there's an actuator on this side and on this side.
No.
Like on both sides of the trigger. That is
So what it
different.
does is, so the Vita has the remote play with the PS4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can literally play your PS4 games on your Vita with you have to have like a very good
You have to have a
internet
really good
connection,
connection.
and it's still a little janky, but it's pretty cool. Like just testing it out for the first time, right? How it does it is these are R1 and L1, and the back touchpad on either side is your others.
There you go.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, the world God only knows. They didn't finish the show, so that was one of the few things where I actually had to go to the manga and read everything that they didn't cover, and I made it through that, and I was like, good, happy. I did the same with Nisekoi.
What'd you think of that one?
Toradора's better though. Toradora forever. If I had to pick one, because I feel like those are the two that like they came around like the same time. They're very similar stories.
You time Andy Toradora.
Yeah. Love me some Toradora. I think I've rewatched that 3 times now.
Nisekoi actually came
I get in a
out.
Toradora mood, and then I'm like,
there was
Toradora.
there was a point where people on A were watching it yearly around what is it, Thanksgiving? People were rewatching it, whatever holidays. Yeah, it was always a yearly watch
So the
for
store
people.
is still active on this right now.
Yeah. The one that is closing is the PSP store is closing next year in July. They're like, yeah, we're closing this.
I mean, that's fair.
Because they've already basically taken half of it down anyways. So it's just like,
Which
yeah,
is
And
interesting
you got
because
this one from Japan?
yeah, that's a Japanese.
Which is
one.
interesting because
just because of the color.
because Nintendo's already closed like the Wii, everything Wii, right? All the Wii shop stuff.
Pretty much, if I'm not mistaken.
How many Vita colors are there?
For the American one has this blue, but it's black on the back.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like front blue, black, back black.
Chase is like, I want all blue, Japan,
Yeah.
please.
And like I was mentioning
How many
before.
versions are there? Is
Too
it
many.
just the one version?
So this one, the ones that you'll find with all the colors, pretty much. That is the 2000. There's the 1000, 2000. The difference is the chunkiness of it. Is this one?
Yeah.
Oh, there's the PCH 1000.
Oh, and the
that's
the screen too, right?
Grab me that one over there. The one that's on the laptop.
The 1000 screen, all of them are OLEDs.
Yes.
From what I understand,
So is the 1000 better then?
I like it more.
You like the 1000 more than
That's the original.
most
Vita.
people like the 1000 better.
Because I like the look of that.
I believe the 2000s, some of them have OLED screens and some of them don't.
less chunky.
And I think literally the only way you can tell, or I think it's adaptive display. No, I'm thinking 3DSs.
Yeah.
Some 3DSs have
Yeah.
IPS panels and then
Yep.
some of them
Yeah.
don't, and you can't tell unless you actually.
So this is a 2000, that's a 1000.
This is a 1000.
Yeah, the 1000's chunkier, which some people like because they have bad hands.
Yeah,
You
so
can
you're-
also the 1000. So they had a plan with AT&T, right? You could get the
Oh, that's
3G
right.
one, the one that could go.
Oh,
online without it. And
Wait,
stuff.
why does that have 2 card slots? Is one of them an SD?
Oh, that's not a slot.
Oh,
It's
it might be for one's for the game and one's for the memory.
yeah, I don't think that's a slot. Yeah.
Is it big?
Oh no, yeah, it is memory. It is memory.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of anime fighting games too.
Looking.
Yeah, what you been playing?
Been playing Under Night. I'm trying to get my seal or Orie, sorry,
yeah.
like solid.
That like Mitsuru level solid.
I'm getting her solid. I've been playing a little bit of Blaze Blue, not a whole lot. I've been falling in love with Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear is my jam.
I like it. It's there's something about it that doesn't like make me like it as much as like Under Night or something like that. But I really like Guilty Gear.
Yeah, Guilty Gear is it's definitely more the combos aren't like as long. You can do big damage with not big combos, but Guilty Gear's so fast and it's so complicated.
Guilty
it's so
Gear
fun.
rewards you for being aggressive.
Yes, it does. You cannot.
When you start blocking or going in backwards and stuff like that, you start losing meter.
I like playing grapple characters and what's his name in Guilty Gear. Bad. every time I play anyone, I'm just like people are all over me. I can't do anything. I play that Kai.
Is that the Jin Kitsuragi?
Yeah, I play him and Jam.
Jam.
I really like her.
Jam's really good. I
like her. I like Jin Kisaragi. Best character in the game is still Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny's like bar none. He's on top, and then there's kind of everyone else.
Right. He reminds me of, or what's her face reminds me of him from Under Night. Yuzuria.
Okay.
The Katana girl or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like the whip out.
She's so I want her to be so good, and she's terrible.
Well, it's just more of like, what do I do? How do I do this?
She's not good either. It's one of those, you have to put so much effort in the character, and you don't get a whole lot of like reward for as much effort you put in. Where you can pick like freaking phone on and just hit a button and win.
Like, I understand like why you guys like phone on, but it's just like like playing as her, it's just not as fun. It's not as fun unless your character's like getting ready to body slam someone, you know, like in the process or whatever. Which is why like Akindu and Akatsuki.
I really like that Orie. She's kind of my jam in that game. So
I like using her as like a mix up to just like oh, let's just do something different, man. Let's just dart across the screen like quick jabs, weak jabs, and
DBZ fighters.
So
and basically all the Arc System fighting games I've been playing.
They're a lot of fun. I don't know what it like because I remember fighting games I used to play was like Soul Calibur, Tekken kind of thing or whatever.
The 3D fighting games. Mostly because the 2D fighting games were in that huge lull for like almost 10 years. I mean, the only ones that were really getting made at the time were like Guilty Gear was having releases every now and then, but it wasn't until Street Fighter 4 came out that all the other ones started exploding again.
The only old one that I really played a lot was X-Men on the game. You ever play that one, the X-Men fighting game?
I don't think I did. No.
Yeah, it was like 9 characters, and you could unlock Magneto and Phoenix, I think. No, not Magneto was already in it. You can unlock Phoenix and someone else, if I'm not mistaken, or whatever. If you knew the code, whatever, to unlock them. So, but yeah, it like fighting games is more of like I played them a bit, but until recently. Oh, and the Naruto fighting games.
Never played those.
Yeah,
the, like 3D arena, kind of like the DBZ Budokai games used to be like that too.
Yeah, there's two. There's the Ultimate Ninja, and then there's the Clash of Ninja version. Clash of Ninja is like Nintendo, and Ultimate Ninja is like Sony, Microsoft kind of version. And I like the Clash of Ninja ones better. Those are the ones where it's more like Tekken kind of style, where it's like you're facing each other, but you can like dart to the side or something. Or I guess Tekken. You can like dart to the side or something like that. But the Ultimate Ninja ones, those ones were cooler. The older ones were cooler because when you do the specials, in the newer ones, you do the special and just like it happens, and it's kind of not anything cool to look at or whatever. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, he's doing this move or whatever. But when you did them in the past games, like it was like there was levels of special that you could do, and you had to actually put in the inputs on it, and someone else, like the other person was also putting inputs to like reduce the damage of it also.
Interesting.
And and it was like some of the craziest like cutscenes, you know, like little like, hey, like let me punch you and then like fart in your face or something like that, you know, kind of thing.
I never got into Naruto. It came over into the States and was starting to get popular like right as I got into college.
Gotcha,
And I
yeah.
just never got into it. Because I had some classmates that are like, you went to Naruto? I'm like, what? And they started showing me the stuff. I'm like, is this trying to be Dragon Ball Z? Don't you guys just want to watch Dragon Ball Z instead?
He's
Like,
orange and his hair's yellow.
and they're like, oh, Naruto. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I just never got into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, it's pretty much like a time shonen or whatever, because like, yeah, watching it now, it's just like, yeah, it's very dated.
But towards the end of college, I literally I'm one of, because I'm older, I'm one of the ones that watched the weekly releases of Brotherhood when it was coming out.
Oh
Not only that, I was one of the ones that was watching the weekly releases of the first Full Metal Alchemist when it was coming out. I was tracking it week by week and getting so hyped, and then waiting for the movie to come out when I was already in college.
Right.
It was hype. And then whenever they announced that Brotherhood was happening, I'm like, what? They're going to adapt the full thing? Are they going to like redo what they did in the first ones? And watching it week to week and seeing what was happening was so awesome.
It's like, yeah, like Full Metal Alchemist is always like, you know, I used to hold it in higher position, but then I was just like, well, I like it. And I think it's really good. I think it's like basically like perfect, you know, and stuff like that. But there's other ones that like, you know, they mean more to me or something,
Right,
like
yeah.
more shows that do it. But it's always like, it's more of like, hey, this is like a staple of like a standard that everyone should try to like achieve or something.
Right.
Because if it's like, well, it's not going to be Full Metal Alchemist level, and it's like,
It's hard to reach that.
why are you even going to make it then?
Right.
So well, we don't want it to be Full Metal Alchemist. We don't want it to be that great or whatever. And it's just like, so you're settling for mediocre at this point. So, and it's not to say that there's a lot of shows that are, you know, bad or anything. It's just like,
But there are a lot of bad anime.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I watched a few of them recently.
Yikes.
But, yeah. Well, actually, nowadays, I pretty much drop anything that I'm not in. Like, if it's not catching me, even if it's like first, I watched one show and I dropped in like the first 2 minutes of watching it.
And that seems to be the hard thing with anime, because I'm not going to say there's not a lot of creativity, but there's not a lot of new stuff happening. You know what I mean? It seems like there's a handful of story types that they try to tell, and a handful of like character archetypes they're trying to fit, or tropes, and then that's it. You kind of shake the globe and see what comes out, and that's the anime that they make.
It's because of the tropes that are like tying everything down, because it's just like, all right, does it have a high school setting? All right, then like if it doesn't, then you're already like in the top 10, you're in the minority 10% of anime that don't have a high school setting. It's like, all right, one thing literally differs like all of this stuff like apart. And then another thing about it is what's it called? The characters. So it's just like, all right, how are you gonna focus for like more of a spectacle kind of show, or are you gonna focus one that's more character driven and stuff like that? And how are you gonna do it? Are they gonna be tropey? Are they going to be like, you know, it's eventually like you're just going to have to like, when you make a character, they will technically be tropey, but you have to like literally make them more than that.
Right.
And a lot of shows don't really go past that point. It's just like, oh yeah, this is the tsundere character, you know, and nothing more.
Which is why I like those animes that try to like destroy genre types. Like, I loved Evangelion because it literally took the mechas and we're we're done with that. Same thing with Madoka Magica. They literally took the magical girls and they're like, watch this.
I think
The Butcher.
Or One Punch Man with like, oh, you want a shonen? Or
Gonna give you something.
Dude, one thing that I keep thinking of is Full Metal Panic.
oh yeah,
When you take Chittery, and it's just like, you look at her from base, like character that she is and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so semi tsundere, just kind of more of like a popular character or whatever that everyone kind of likes or whatever. And then like you look at like Invisible Victory, like the 4th season of Full Metal Panic or whatever, and like you look at how like, oh, like things are like a lot different than what they used to be or whatever. And so, and it like, it's just like crazy. Like I think Full Metal Panic is like really good. Like pretty much every season you watch adds something new, and it's just like, it's a show that tries to be like everything, like all at the same time. And it's crazy because it actually like succeeds at like a lot of it. So, and another one I think of is like the Rail Decks series or whatever.
watch the Real Decks.
Yeah, it's like when you're watching it, it's just more of that is the closest thing to the Trails series that you're talking about. It's the most world building kind of series in general, because after like the first half of season 1 of Index, it's just like, let's focus on these characters. Let's focus on these characters.
Right.
now.
Yeah, I remember you.
And then
plot summarizing last time.
Railgun is actually one that follows the same characters more than Index does. Index has like the main 2, and then there's Musica, who's the main character in Railgun, right? So it's like the 3 of them are kind of like who it follows around, and then Accelerator kind of comes in there a bit too, or whatever. And they're like the main characters. But in Index, it's like constantly focusing like on other people. Railgun doesn't really do that until like the later stuff. In the first stuff, it's like the main 4 girls or whatever is like the main characters, like a large portion of it.
Maybe that's what I'll get into this year's the Rail decks.
Rail decks. So I mean, I think I explained it before. You know, you just gotta watch it in order, like Index, Rail. I would actually recommend the light novels too if you want.
Are they like officially translated?
Yeah. You can watch them on like I think Bookwalker or something, or read them on Bookwalker and stuff. But but I would also recommend the show, because the show's actually pretty well animated, especially for like JC staff. It's one of their better shows, and it's just kind of fun to watch an anime about them.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, I might have to consider doing that, because like I said, I've always got like, there's always a new anime I watch in the year, and there's usually like a rewatch that I do. So I'm thinking about picking up something this year, but I'm not sure what. So I might do that.
And I think I mentioned this before. You're not gonna know how good of a show it can be until like later, stuff like that, because the first half literally just focuses around the main character, and he's kind of generic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just like, and I love him to death, but I mean, like, yeah,
It's generic.
He's generic
Gotcha.
as anything. So
That's all right.
Yeah.
I like big world building and things happening in big world building, and that's just why Trails in the Sky is just gripped me.
Yeah. And I'll say this also, like Rail Decks has no end goal in sight, it feels like.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like it's striving for anything yet, which means if there is going to be an ending, it's not even close to it yet right now, because there's no big bad
Okay.
or anything. There's kind of like, hey, these people are like higher up, but they're not bad kind of thing or whatever, or they're not currently bad guys right now, so it's just
They
like,
might be bad guys, like freaking what's her name and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Sharon Carter.
Yeah.
is that the girl?
Yeah, like all of a sudden, or she's the girl who was in Winter Soldier and Civil War who helped. She's like bad guy now.
Huh.
I think.
Huh.
She's the power broker.
I watched.
Spoilers.
But is the power broker bad? See, I don't know.
Did you
I don't
watch the show?
I did, but like,
Trying to connect device.
Huh? What?
Trying to add your
I was just looking at things.
Oh, okay, yeah. So little tidbit of information. When the Vitas first came out, you couldn't use the controls to activate. You had to use it all touchscreen.
that seems like awful design.
Well, see, what it was is because it was based
Where's the
around. because
PS4 and PS5 system I can connect to?
it was based around when they made it. They're
It's
like,
not-
what does everyone have in their pockets all the time? Oh yeah, a cell phone with a touchscreen on it. So that's what they were going for. Like it ended up being kind of gimmicky or whatever.
Right.
But it's fairly useful when you need more buttons and stuff like that. Just like put it like right by your thumb on the screen, so it's just like, boom.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Das
and- yeah, and also when I got this one, the guy left a Killzone Mercenaries inside of the thing or whatever because I got it used, and so I was just like, well, I already have this game.
Guess I'll have it again.
Free game.
Yeah.
Free game.
So what's everyone's time? Well, I guess George, what's your time limit on when we should need to go on?
I probably need to leave. I probably need to be headed back home by 5:15.
Oh wow. Okay, so
5:15. Because I need to be there at 6. 6 is
Yeah.
when people
And
should
I-
start showing
and
up.
I need to get back way earlier.
Oh, then we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you just tell
Should
us
we
when
end
you
this?
want to. Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Bye.
See ya. We're gonna go play video games.
I mean, I
Maybe
paced out
you'll
like,
maybe
what?
you'll get
I paced out like what 20 minutes ago.
maybe you'll get a let's play of some.
Oh Oh, it's Texas.
Fight
people.
Tan.